I noticed that the wow signal from 1977, that was an extraterrestrial signal that was never understood. It came from some mysterious source, and that was at a frequency of 1.4 gigahertz, and um, it was from a source potentially approaching the sun. And I realized that the direction where it came from was within 9 degrees from the arrival direction of 3I Atlas. And
The shock hit the control room instantly. The moment the newest NASA data flashed on screen, every researcher went silent. The numbers were impossible. 3I Atlas was spitting out methanol and hydrogen cyanide at levels no natural comet should ever produce. It wasn't a small spike. It wasn't a glitch. It was a chemical alarm bell from deep space. ALMA's instruments showed 8% of all vapor coming off the comet was methanol, a level so extreme it broke every model they had ever built for interstellar chemistry. This wasn't unusual. This was chemically illegal. A comet should not be able to make this much methanol without some kind of internal factory running inside it. Scientists stared at the readings, then at each other. The ratios weren't just strange, they were wrong. Almost like they belonged to something that wasn't a comet at all. Instead of the tiny trace amounts expected from normal outgassing, methanol and hydrogen cyanide dominated the plume. The enrichment was so unnatural that senior chemists quietly admitted the truth they couldn't say publicly. These values do not resemble anything from our solar system. Behind closed doors, whispers turned darker. These kinds of ratios shouldn't be possible without hidden chemical engines or reactions happening deep within its core. Reactions that require stable conditions, pressure, and timing. Conditions comets are not supposed to have. They began to fear the unthinkable. 3I Atlas might be running high-complexity organic chemistry, the kind usually seen in labs, oceans, or planetary surfaces, not on a wandering ice body from another star. If this chemistry evolved naturally, then alien planetary systems might operate under rules humanity has never even imagined. But if it didn't evolve naturally, if something guided it, then the implications were much more disturbing. Each new dataset made the same question louder, sharper, more unavoidable. Why does this interstellar object behave like it was designed to manufacture life-building molecules? And as scientists kept staring at the numbers, one fear became clear: this is only the first anomaly. The next dataset may be even worse. The moment the new frames arrived, scientists felt a jolt of disbelief. 3I Atlas wasn't just shedding material, it was communicating. Hubble and JUICE both captured the comet's two tails splitting apart in clean, organized lines, so precise and so synchronized that several researchers whispered the same phrase: "It looks intentional." Nothing about the tails resembled the chaos of a normal comet. The structure was too sharp, too stable, too perfectly shaped, as if responding to some hidden rhythm inside the object rather than the forces around it. One tail carried charged gas, the other drifting dust, but both began shifting angles in ways that made no physical sense. Solar winds should scatter them randomly, yet here they were, tilting, tightening, widening, almost like signals being tuned in real time. When JUICE captured its latest sequence, the spacecraft recorded a sudden, violent surge of activity, the kind seen only in catastrophic breakups. Except 3I Atlas showed no signs of breaking. Instead, it looked as if something inside had reactivated the moment it passed the sun, waking up processes no one can model or explain. Mission teams froze when they saw what happened next. The dual-tail structure didn't fade like every comet does after perihelion. It brightened. It sharpened. It became more defined. It was the opposite of natural behavior, the opposite of everything in the textbooks. Engineers rechecked their instruments. Analysts recalibrated data sets. Nothing changed the outcome. The comet's tails were becoming clearer, cleaner, and more symmetrical the farther it moved away from the sun. That symmetry raised disturbing questions. Some researchers now openly ask whether internal pressure spikes or even magnetic structures could be shaping the tails, forces no comet should possess. In every new time-lapse sequence, the tails appeared to pulse, expanding and contracting as if responding to some internal command rather than solar forces. It was motion that looked alive, not mechanical. Alive, yet not biological. Something in the middle. Something unknown. Then JUICE captured the moment that set off alarms. The dust tail widened dramatically in under an hour, as if a deep reservoir beneath the nucleus had erupted. But no thermal model predicted that. No gravitational interaction explained it. The widening came in a rhythmic burst, a pulse, like a heartbeat from an object that should not have one. Every image makes the failure of current models more obvious. Equations break. Simulations crash. Scientists are watching a system that refuses to behave like rock or ice or debris. Something inside 3I8less is pushing material out in intervals so precise they resemble timing patterns rather than random outgassing, and the fear creeps in. What kind of object behaves with signals, pulses, and patterns? This isn't a passive interstellar wanderer anymore. It's acting like an active system, one that seems to be preparing for something. The moment JUICE crossed the 41 million mile mark, the danger became impossible to ignore. The comet didn't just glow brighter, it detonated with light. A sudden flare so violent the spacecraft's sensors briefly saturated. Mission controllers stared at their screens in disbelief. Nothing in their models predicted this. Nothing in known comet physics could explain an object brightening after it had already passed the sun. Yet 3I Atlas acted as if a switch had been flipped deep inside it. The coma. The cloud surrounding its core didn't behave like gas escaping from ice. It behaved like a system. It expanded in waves, swelling outward as if powered by hidden chambers erupting one after another. Astronomers had prepared for a quiet, cooling object. Instead, they watched an interstellar visitor become more aggressive, more reactive, as though responding to something approaching or preparing for something ahead. High-resolution imaging from JUICE exposed the shock no one wanted to admit. The inner coma wasn't smooth. It was layered, stacked, striated, like a set of nested shells being pushed outward by jets firing from deep beneath the nucleus. This wasn't random venting. It looked organized, sequenced, even intentional. Then ALMA data confirmed the scariest part. The methanol they expected to see only at the core was also coming from icy grains scattered throughout the coma. These grains weren't frozen relics. They were chemically active, releasing complex molecules into space as if reacting with something unseen. That meant reactions were happening in mid-space, in temperatures and pressures where no chemistry should survive. Scientists realized they weren't watching a simple outgassing event. They were watching a multi-stage chemical process, unfolding layer by layer, reaction by reaction, like a chain happening on cue. But no one could explain what was giving the cues. The flare-up struck again. Then again. Too fast for thermal models, too rhythmic to be coincidence. Each pulse brighter, sharper, timed almost eerily with its narrowing distance to Earth. As if the comet was syncing itself to something, adjusting its behavior in ways no natural body ever had. A new fear formed across every mission room. The coma wasn't just brightening. Something inside it was waking up. The shock hit NASA like a cold blade the moment the new readings were confirmed. 3I Atlas was showing chemical values no one had ever seen in any comet anywhere. Methanol and hydrogen cyanide weren't appearing in trace amounts. They were flooding the spectrum in numbers so extreme that senior specialists stepped back from their screens in disbelief. These weren't just enriched values. They ranked among the highest ever measured in the history of comet research. Across the lab, researchers whispered the same troubling thought. These chemical levels should only exist on planets, worlds with oceans, crusts, active geology, or deep, slow chemical cycles. But 3I Atlas has none of that. It drifts alone between stars, silent and frozen, yet somehow carrying the chemical signature of an environment far more advanced than a wandering block of ice. Then came the line that froze the room. Cordner, one of the leading experts on interstellar chemistry, looked at the data and said out loud what everyone else was too afraid to even suggest. It is chemically implausible for these reactions to occur without a guided sequence. A guided sequence. The words hit like a quiet explosion. Scientists tried to mask their reactions, but the message spread instantly through astrobiology circles. If Cordner was right, then two possibilities existed, and both were terrifying. Either alien planetary systems operate under chemical rules far stranger and more intense than anything in our solar system, or something shaped this comet. And that second possibility, unspoken, taboo, but now impossible to ignore, sent a ripple of tension across international research teams. Because if these molecules weren't the product of nature, then humanity might be staring at its first chemical artifact from an unknown civilization. Behind closed doors, researchers admitted what they refused to say at press conferences. No formation model can recreate these chemical ratios, not even theoretical ones. The fingerprint is too precise, too complex, too deliberate. Every new dataset pushes the same disturbing idea closer to the surface. 3I Atlas isn't behaving like cosmic debris drifting by chance. It's behaving like something carrying instructions, something with intention. And if the chemical story is this strange, what comes next could be even stranger. They weren't supposed to see this, not from 178 million miles away. Yet Hubble's newest images hit NASA like a cold shock. Instead of fading or blurring at this distance, 3I Atlas sharpened, its edges tightening as if the comet wanted to reveal itself, not hide. This is the opposite of what real comets do. Natural objects diffuse. They smear into soft halos. But this one became clearer, more structured, almost deliberate. Researchers stared at the frame in silence, realizing they were looking at a comet that refused to behave like one. At the same time, the JUICE spacecraft recorded the object in a state of violent, impossible activity. The jets blasting from its surface didn't follow thermal rules. They erupted in erratic bursts, too fast, too strong, too organized. The whole comet glowed brighter than predicted, as if an internal switch had been flipped. And the tails? The tails moved in ways no solar wind model could explain. They shifted position mid-observation, bending and tightening as though something inside the nucleus was driving them. Then came NASA's November 19th release, images showing activity patterns that had changed again, all within less than 2 weeks. The data teams were stunned. In scientific terms, comets evolve slowly, gradually, predictably. But 3I Atlas was updating itself like a system receiving new instructions. Its jets, brightness, tail geometry, even its rotational signature, all altered in a time frame that made no physical sense. Scientists tried to stay calm, using words like highly dynamic, but everyone understood the translation. It is behaving like no natural comet ever observed. What made the shock worse was the nucleus. It appeared too small to support the massive outgassing seen across all instruments. That means either the object has impossible efficiency or it hides internal chambers, reservoirs, even cavities that shouldn't exist in a wanderer from deep interstellar space. Dust patterns offered no comfort. Instead of random spray, the particles formed structured arcs, organized ejections, almost staged, as if following some internal blueprint. Even the tails repositioned themselves, not just drifting from sunlight and solar wind, but reacting to something scientists can't detect. Every new image breaks another equation. Every new data set forces another rewrite of the models, and a trend is becoming clear. The closer it gets, the more unnatural it looks. Telescopes aren't capturing a comet anymore. They're capturing an evolving anomaly, one that seems to change faster the more humanity watches it. And now, scientists are starting to ask the question they never wanted to ask. If the images keep getting stranger, what will the next set reveal? The tension begins right now. Because with every passing hour, 3I Atlas behaves less like a comet and more like something waking up. It will pass Earth at a safe 170 million miles, yet scientists track it with the urgency of something closing in. Distance means nothing when the object itself refuses to follow the rules of physics. Its chemical spikes, those violent surges of methanol and hydrogen cyanide, are no longer random. They're tightening, snapping closer together like a heartbeat accelerating under stress. The closer it gets to Earth, the more synchronized these chemical pulses become, as if the object is preparing for something. Inside mission rooms, the fear is quiet but unmistakable. Some researchers whisper about a possible late-stage activity burst, the kind no human has ever witnessed from an interstellar traveler. If internal pressure is building, the object could rupture in a way no model has ever predicted. Even worse, others fear the opposite. The chemistry is not destabilizing. It is organizing, stabilizing toward an unknown phase no comet should ever reach. Every new data set increases the dread. Scientists can't predict even 10 days into the future. 3I Atlas breaks every projection the moment it's written. Its behavior bends and twists around the models like it's deliberately evading prediction. And yet, Hubble and JUICE stay locked onto it with an intensity usually reserved for threats. Not because NASA believes 3I Atlas is dangerous, but because it is too strange to look away. The official line is calm and controlled. The unofficial one, researchers call it the object that refuses to act like an object. If the acceleration continues, if the spikes tighten even more, December the 19th of May deliver the single biggest cosmic shock of the decade. A revelation, a rupture, a signal. No one knows. No one can know. All they can say is this. Something is coming on December 19th. And the universe has gone silent about what happens next.